Welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening for everyone who's joining the Women in Cloud virtual brunch. So we are really excited to have you today. So today I have with me Jeana Jorgensen. She's the general manager at Cloud and AI. And the discussion that we will have today is how to navigate and win enterprise opportunities with Microsoft co-sell programs. So with that, I want to give you a little bit context because there are a few new people who have joined us. But first is let's make sure we have is the chat functionality working for you so you can have a conversation. So there are two questions I have for you. One, what is keeping you excited these days? And second, what unexpected situations have you observed over the last 2 months? Take a moment and write those comments that would allow me and Jeana to have engagement with you. Okay, next. So first is I want to introduce myself. I am Chaitra Vedulapalli. I wear two hats. I'm a co-founder and CMO at Mailer, and we are a technology company, and we are a Microsoft Gold partner. The second hat that I wear is I am also a co-founder and president of Women in Cloud. And the inspiration for driving Women in Cloud is to really create economic access for women entrepreneurs in the cloud tech industry. So for today's session, that what we are going to be talking about, we'll have a great fireside chat with Jeana. We'll go into a networking. You already experienced our networking where you could have a conversation at your table. We'll do a moderated Q&A, and then we'll do a closing remarks, and we will get on to the day and have a fabulous weekend. So before we get started, everyone wants to know, why did Women in Cloud come into existence? I want to give you a little bit landscape. There are a few data that is really disturbing, right? The first one is we have less than 3% of female tech entrepreneurs who are part of the channel programs, and less than 2% of women tech entrepreneurs have access to cloud tech opportunities. And when you look at the VC funding is less than 2%. But the other piece we really have to focus is less than 1% of female tech entrepreneurs are awarded with cloud contracts or corporate contracts. And when you look at this
So when you look at this fact, really what we want to address here is we thought in Women in Cloud, what if women entrepreneurs created $1 billion in economic impact, and by creating jobs and diverse solutions and uplifting society. So that's really what Women in Cloud is all about, and that's what we have come together as a community-led organization to address.
So thanks, Riza. There's a little bit of instability with my network. Thank you for catching up. If that happens, please continue.
Excellent. So Women in Cloud, we are a community-led economic development organization. We have 3 pillars that we really operate on. Around building community, providing access for women entrepreneurs via events, programs, online network, and also a lot of it is centered around education. So we do have a Cloud Accelerator program that focuses on immersive readiness and programming to really help people win enterprise opportunities and a global stage to showcase their business. Finally, we focus on public policy advancement to help to work with legislator and corporations to unlock procurement vehicles for women entrepreneurs. There's a couple ways that we do things throughout the year. We do have our annual summit. We like to say that we are not an events organization. All of our programming is really along building community and creating that economic access. So We have, like I mentioned, the Global Cloud Accelerator. We do have Cloud Exec Connect, and that's a highly curated experience where we bring together entrepreneurs and industry thought leaders. Additionally, we host awareness campaigns and a Cloud Innovate Her Pitch Challenge, which we have, and a lot of our programming has recently switched to being completely virtual. So we do virtual, hybrid, and a lot of industry event inclusion as well. So today there are 4 actions that I'd really like you to take as you're with us on this event today and joining us for this virtual brunch. Number 1 is we'd like to ask you to really engage, ask questions in the chat, make this experience memorable for you. You'll notice at the bottom center of your screen, you'll see a little emoji icon. You can use that to share live reactions with the speaker on anything that is that you feel resonates with you. So I'd like to invite all of you right now, go ahead and clap and cheer and use those emojis to let us know that you are, you can see those reactions. Excellent. Also, we invite you to really connect and take time. We will have a little bit of a break for you guys to jump back into the social lounge and talk about what content is really resonating with you. And we want to make sure that you make it your intention to meet and connect with about 2 to 3 people today and build a really strong conversation there. And if you're sharing anything on social media in regards to Women in Cloud or our virtual brunch today, please use our hashtags, #Women in Cloud and #SheSoars. Okay, and then finally, to stay connected with us, we invite you to join our community. We have the Women in Cloud Digital Network, and that's where you can get first-hand information, early bird access to content, and also be able to connect with other entrepreneurs and industry leaders through one-to-one chat, group chat. We have an activity feed, an events wall of things going on all throughout the community. So I really encourage you to take the time to join us there to be able to stay connected. So today I'd like to introduce Jeana Jorgensen. She's a general manager of Cloud and AI with Microsoft. And Jeana, would you like to please go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody today?
Sure. Hey, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with Women in Cloud and everyone here today. So I sit in what we call the Commerce and Ecosystems Division within Cloud and AI. And within that role, I cover all things our online distribution strategy through commercial marketplaces and all of our end-to-end partner experiences. So how do we make it easier for a very early stage startup all the way through to a very mature global partner working with us, and how do we make it easier to do business?
Excellent, thank you, Jeana. So today we're gonna be talking about some fun stuff first, so we can really get to know you. But we have a few fun questions for you before we get started. Awesome. So first off, if please tell us, because we want to present you as you're a human, you're a real person, not just a face on a website. So tell us how you start the first 30 minutes of your day, because you are a mother of 3, you have triplets. So what's that experience like for you every morning?
Oh, that's a great question, and probably a scary one. My first 30 minutes is usually I am toppled and tackled by 3 6-year-old boys, and then I get everybody sort of out of bed. I go around the house and flush every single toilet in the house, because that is something we are still working on doing. I just quickly check mail to make sure nothing as crazy has gone off the rails since I checked it before the night before. And gosh, I just make sure I get the kids fed and up and running, and that's usually a feat in and of itself.
That's awesome. That sounds like quite an undertaking. So another one that we have for you, what are your favorite emojis that you find that you use most often?
Another good one. It depends on who has my phone. My kids love to text my mom and anybody. Well, anybody. They can't really. They're not discerning about that. So if it's them who has my phone, it's always the poop emoji without fail. If it's me, I am typically one with the either the little happy face with the kissing heart or a thumbs up. Those are my two.
Awesome. And so who would you say in your life inspires you to be better?
Oh gosh, so many people. I would say, of course your kids always inspire you to be better, right? They remind me every day that life, I don't need to take life too seriously. And they're a constant humbling reminder in my life. And the other, is my community, really, right? Like everybody around me. I just want to make sure we all live in a great place and that we're out supporting each other. And so it's really sort of a macro community thing for me that makes me want to do better and inspires me to wake up every day and try to make the day, when I leave, when I go to sleep at night, I hope the day is better because I did something impactful versus worse off. And so it's really the community around us.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, and speaking to that, the community is really, the world has changed a lot in recent times, in the past couple of months. So to that same point, what's surprising self-realization would you say that you've had during COVID and how have you dealt with that?
During COVID, I think there's two things that were probably the most surprising for me. I have a really long commute to my company, to Microsoft, from where I live. And so I'm usually in the car 3 to 4 hours a day. So for me, what was surprising was I had got those hours back and I thought I'd have all the time in the world on my hands. And I realized I didn't because the days blurred, right? And things got a little messy for me, which kind of leads me to my second big realization, and that's for all of us actually. And I've really had to exercise as much discipline as humanly possible here. But what I was really hoping to see with COVID was that the world gets to take a breath, right? We get to just go, okay, we're going to slow down for a minute. We're going to take a breath because it was much needed. And the world didn't take a breath. We didn't take a breath in a number of ways, professionally, socially. Like I said, the lines got blurred from work and home a lot. And the other thing that I noticed was people were really diligent in the beginning about using video, using voice, and really trying to be as present as possible online. And, we used to fight an in-person meeting culture for people to be present and actually pay attention to the meeting and participate actively and, not multitask during these. But the thing that was surprising to me about COVID was, we're now getting to a place where people are just going on mute. They're really moving into multitasking overdrive even more than before. Mm-hmm. And that to me was surprising and for me a little bit disappointing, to be honest, because I was really hoping this would be a time when people would really focus in on the one thing you're doing in the moment. All neuroscience will tell you and all practical implementation of it will tell you that multitasking actually doesn't make you more efficient. It doesn't make you more effective, and you don't get more done. And you miss out on so many things. And that's something I used to think I was, everyone wants to think they're this great multitasker and I could get so much done. And when I got my boys, when they were, born, I thought I was going to have to go into multitasking overdrive. And one of my good friends really challenged me, and she said, "You're not listening to anything we talk about. Is when you need to focus, and you need to be efficient and focus on the thing at hand, and start to separate. The things like you can't be doing work and personal life at the same time. You just can't. So when you're at work, be fully present at work. When you're at home, be fully present at home, and just give every moment your full attention." And that's where I was, really struggling before. And so I think COVID for me surprised me, is that like we're going more into multifunctioning overdrive. And so we're all going to have to implement that self-discipline to come back about staying focused and in the moment. online, especially, where you can get really easily distracted.
Right. I completely agree. And, that's why it's so important for us to do, have experiences like this, especially where we can get people connected and still have that really strong sense of community, because we are all working remotely right now. It's sometimes just really challenging to keep your mind concentrated on everything that you need to focus on, and I like to say, work with intention, and set your intentions for the day, so you know how to take action. So for today, we're really going to be talking about navigating enterprises. So I'd like to start by asking you, what does enterprise selling mean to you, and how should tech entrepreneurs really prepare for it?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, not necessarily what it means to me, but what it means to us as a corporation, and how I think we need to be thinking about it from an industry standpoint. Enterprise selling really comes down to, how do you reach more customers? And you can talk about enterprise customers, or any customer, from a small business all the way through up to a global company around the world. And what we're seeing at Microsoft is we're seeing customer buying patterns change dramatically. More and more people, even before COVID, were buying online, right? The decision makers about who was buying what online has been morphing and moving more towards the business decision maker, and not solely away from IT, but definitely more of a migration to the business decision maker. So you see this prevalence of, SaaS application purchases and people wanting to buy more things online. It's just following consumer buying patterns, right? We used to buy toilet paper and toothpaste online, and we were comfortable about that. And now, I'm not there, but you definitely see people buying things like diamonds online. They're buying cars online, things you would never think to buy online. And people are doing that because those are the early adopters of how people are going to buy in the modern world. And we see commercial software happening in that same exact pattern, right? People were always comfortable buying email online or buying web conferencing services online. And now we see almost every component of software, or some component of it, being bought online. 2 years ago, we'd get excited about, a couple $1,000 purchases that we saw online through our commercial marketplaces. And, we're seeing 8-figure deals happen through marketplace all the time now. And so people are buying much larger deal sizes. And it's not just through the enterprise, right? We're seeing mid-sized companies and smaller companies buying almost everything that they have in their infrastructure online. And so we're just going to see a same kind of curve. People are going to get more and more comfortable, and we're going to see that adoption grow. Forrester Research has done some really great studies, and they believe by the end of, I believe it's 2023, that 17% of all software is going to be purchased online through marketplaces. And so when I think about getting access to customers, not just enterprise customers, and co-selling with them, I think companies really need to think about how they reach them, right? And if you're a partner with Microsoft, you tend to been trained to, you need to co-sell with our field sellers, right? Or you need to sell through our 70,000 channel partners around the world. And it's always been relationship-based, which is very important, and that does not go away. But online distribution has not been a thing because people weren't as comfortable buying their software online. So nobody really thought about their marketplace strategy and how they were going to sell direct, either from their own websites as much or through commercial marketplaces. And that is something where we see from our competitors and from Microsoft, a huge focus on not just selling through our field sellers, which is important, not just selling through our channel, also important, but really thinking hard about their online distribution channel. And I think born in the cloud partners and startups get it, right? They think about, I don't want to have to go build an entire channel. I'm going to go partner with a big service provider who has got a big channel or a big customer base. And that typically is where Microsoft tends to be differentiated, right? We spent 4 decades building a large sales force and building an incredible channel. And we want to tap into those. And then the customer base comes from that, right? And so as the largest enterprise software company in the world, right, we have access to a whole lot of customers, which everybody, one of our partners wants access to, understandably. And the way to really think about that is thinking about you as an entrepreneur, or as you as any woman in technology who's responsible for how do you go get more customers, which, to be honest, is every engineer now, it's every business person, it's every program manager, it's every person in the business now should be thinking, how do I go get more customers? And the way to do that is really push your company hard on how they think about online distribution and selling direct. Selling direct doesn't even mean selling without a channel, right? Thinking about how do you do online distribution so people get access to the software faster and you get actually payouts more quickly. How do you think about that using your channel? And it's just a mode we're going to go to, because this notion of, faxing or, things of, decades ago, all this notion of paper trails will typically go into the online world, and people will buy software online. 12-month, 12-week procurement cycles will move down to 12 seconds, right, in the future. And I think where people struggle is they think about, oh, online is very disruptive to my channel strategy that I have, or it's very disruptive to my field seller strategy. And it doesn't have to be. It's actually very complementary, but it needs to be. It's part of just every business's transformation and how they think about going to market, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, since you spoke a lot about co-selling, so what would you say are the criteria for companies to be part of the co-sell program with Microsoft?
What do they need to do to be eligible for that?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, typically where we prioritize is those who are using our technology, whether that's Dynamics or whether that's Azure, and there's a certain amount of criteria usually around the dollar spend that we see from the partners. Those get prioritized into the co-sell program. But from once you're using our technology, whether you've sold $1 or $10 million, you can start co-selling with us online through our commercial marketplaces. And then as we start paying our sales force and paying our channel incentives is where you need to meet specific criteria for different technologies to be in that quota accelerant program.
Okay. Yeah. So getting people, started with the co-sell program, once they meet that criteria, how would you say that you make opportunities accessible for women through your programs that you're currently leading?
Yeah, one of the things that we do, I'll go with what we do for everybody, and then what we specifically are doing with women founders is for everybody. Like the first thing we want to be doing with you is, once you've decided who you want to partner with, or whether you want to partner with all clouds, that's also a core piece of strategy many of our partners have. It's just thinking about what is the written down go-to-market plan that you have over the next 6 months. And when I say that, I encourage every partner that we work with, and any partner who's working with Google or Amazon or anybody, to say, what is that set over the next 6 months? What's the goal you want to achieve? How many customers do you want to reach? How many channel relationships do you want to build if that's part of it? What's the co-marketing strategy that you do in terms of digital, social, online distribution, event-based, whatever that is? And then what are the co-selling activities you do, like targeted account planning, like, again, deeper channel development? What are those set of things that you do that's written down over the next 6 months that you want to establish, so there's an aligned strategy with you and whatever service provider you're partnering with? And I think that's important, to make sure those goals are aligned and you both set out to do that. And then you basically align on what the call to action is. And from my perspective, as being with Microsoft, the biggest thing we can do is make sure you have a presence online through the commercial marketplaces first and foremost, because that's how we can then jointly promote the solution and jointly expose you to analysts, press, customers, our field sellers, our channel. You've got to do that online. And so that's an important piece of that initial strategy is, write it down what you want for the next 6 months, make sure you have an artifact of your solution is highlighted. And then the thing that is really interesting to me, and it's always one that I think is important to do, but it's just like, somebody asking you when your car's not working, do you have gas in the tank, right? It's kind of the first basic question of like, why is my car not running? Well, I don't have gas in the tank today, right? The first question I always ask is like, does the value prop you have resonate? And we do this at Microsoft all the time, because we get desensitized to what we know about our own products and services when you work at a company, right? You're like, oh, of course this makes sense. But if I put it in front of somebody else who doesn't know your business, does it make as much sense to them? So I always say, like, hey, make sure you do a pass at that. And we're always happy to run it by a field seller or somebody who's in that space, an industry expert who can give you feedback, who's not, accustomed to what you're doing, as a first step in making sure that your value prop really resonates. And I think that's really hard to do internally, because again, you get used to what your value prop is and you think, I've done all these steps. I've done, my positioning and all my messaging documentation, and it makes sense, but it may not when it goes outside of your organization. And that's what we find all the time, is people tend to hone that, because, if you can put another company's name right in front of the sentence that describes what you're doing, then it's confusing, right? And so always making sure that that differentiation comes out. And it sounds like basic 101, and it is, but it's one of probably the most common things we see missed from even some of our most mature partners that we work with. And so I always like to start there, because then you can really get specific and crisp on what you're going after. And I've seen a couple of companies who are really they have deeply complicated solutions that are super important, but they're complex. Right. And hearing their initial value prop to seeing how they then distill it down to a very simple sentence that any other field seller can just pick up and run with, and they can actually identify a solution that fits your technology or fits your solution when they see it in their customer account. That's the goal is, right? The goal is not to make it sound hard and sound more complicated to differentiate. The goal is to make it resonate with every single person that you come across. And that's again where we see people confusing differentiation with complexity. We see people confusing differentiation with their own sort of desensitized notion of what their value prop is. And so I think that's always a really great place to start is, I always say, like, can my 6-year-old understand? Can any of these guys understand what this is and what this is doing? And we saw a bunch of companies just really take off in the co-sell program because they were able to refine and distill a complicated thing into its finest form. And even if it's not complicated, how is it differentiated? So when it's standing next to 4 or 5 things like it, it stands out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? And I love that you use the words refine and distill. It reminds me of this saying with designers and even in fashion, when you put on so many things, you get dressed, you have to edit, make it, you're going to put on everything at once, but you do have to edit down and like you said, refine and distill. Very, very important. So I know that you actually use a method, use Moneyball as a method, right? To drive productivity in your team. Can you tell us a little bit about that story and how entrepreneurs can use that technique to increase productivity within their groups?
Yeah, well, what Moneyball is that we use, it's basically a training program for all of our internal Microsoft engineers and developers. Essentially, where it says we get customers and partners to give feedback before you've written a line of code, before you've written a BRD, before you've ever even defined what you're trying to do, to test your hypothesis about what feature or product or service you're building. And it's a methodology, essentially, where you bring in customer and partner infusion into the design of your products and services. And we use that across Microsoft. And it's something that, again, we tend to think, I know what the problem is because I'm hearing it from one customer, and therefore it's the problem for all customers. But then they didn't Moneyball it, right? They didn't use the methodology, and they just thought they knew what they wanted. And then all of a sudden they're like, wow, why isn't this taking off with customers? We launched this, what's wrong? And then they get more feedback and they realize, wow, we didn't design this based on their feedback originally. And I will argue, we often hear people say, well, customers aren't sure what they want. I would argue everybody knows what they want to some degree. They just may not know how to articulate it in words you understand, right? But people know inherently what they need if you ask them and if you listen. And the funny thing about Moneyball that I find really interesting, when we look at the number of female engineers in our organization, the number of people who are moneyballing are a much higher percentage of females than we actually have percentage of females in the organization. And it shows their interest in being very customer obsessed and getting the feedback and listening and wanting to start with the problem that they may not know the answer to. They're very comfortable saying, like, I'm not sure that I have the right answer, but I want to go make sure all voices are heard and embedded into my product development. And we have a very, very large percentage of women moneyballing, more so than our male counterparts, which is fascinating data just in terms of the methodology, right? And so it's something we've been using for a while. And it is something right now that we're looking to offer as a benefit to anybody who's in the Microsoft for Startups program. And we're just working through the details of how we get that out right now. Because we get asked a lot, like, hey, how do I get access to some of these customers when I'm testing my market viability, right? And what I'm trying to do. And so we're trying to make sure that becomes a benefit in the near future for our startups in the program, which we're excited about.
Yeah, that's incredibly exciting. So you've given some great insight onto all of this, which we really appreciate, and I'm seeing some questions come through in the chat. So before we go to our next portion, which is going to be, we'll have a little break so people can, think back on what you mentioned here and discuss in the roundtables what points most resonated with them. But before we head to that, I just do you have any what's your summarizing statement that you want to leave people with before they go to as a thought to carry with them as they go into the networking piece?
Yeah, as founders and entrepreneurs, especially as female founders and entrepreneurs, the gates are opening wider and wider, and they should be all the way open right now. And there's a bunch of work that we're doing on the female founder side that I forgot to mention earlier, specific to women, about how giving them more access to economic opportunities and partnering with Microsoft and promoting those solutions. And I would say that's something we're going to put a real emphasis on. We have been for the last 2 years. We partnered with Women in Cloud. We partnered with the Female Founders Alliance and the Riveter and a whole bunch of different women in tech groups that are helping female founders, and we want to continue to do more. But the summary of all of it is companies like Microsoft, we don't survive unless we have a good partner network. We don't survive without the innovation from people like you guys. And so while a company of our size can be look daunting to navigate, there's really a very basic formula. And it's just a matter of, if Microsoft is the one that you want to partner with, how do you follow those steps? And I'll give you this sort of broader summary of just as, the first things first is decide whether you want to partner with Microsoft, decide whether you want to be using our technologies. And when you've made that decision, or if you make that decision, really it's about thinking about your distribution and thinking about how do you want to sell, how do you want to partner with Microsoft, and writing down those your sort of wish list for the next 6 months and partnering with them. And there is a navigable process literally that walks you through online. And when you become a partner to Microsoft, it's called Partner Center, and that's the portal by which you interface with Microsoft all the time. And there's a pathway for all startups and ISVs that says these are the steps that you need to take. And when you follow those, typically we see really great success with those partners being able to grow their partnership and grow their overall bottom line, which is what we want to see. And we want to get your innovative solutions in front of our customers of all sizes, regardless of whether you're selling into the enterprise or small business. And so it's just a matter of us, following that pathway and following those steps. And sometimes people go to step 10, which is, I want to co-sell with you before they've on the service. And so we just say, hey, follow the steps, because it really is just a guided pathway that will hopefully, is designed to grow your business and build that partnership successfully with Microsoft over time. And thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk to you guys.
You know what? Thank you. I was just about to say the same thing. You're really, in the opening, again, our intention was really to let people realize that, you're a human and you are devoting yourself to this and devoting your time to really share all of this knowledge with us. And so we're going to actually go to the break in the social lounge in just a bit. But before we do that, I want to share some rules of engagement. So during this social time, we're going to give you about 10 minutes to connect with other people that are in attendance. So what we would like you to do during that time, you can grab a seat at a table. Jeana's gonna go out there, and Chaitra and myself, and you can hop around from table to table if you'd like, wherever there's an open seat. But really what we'd like your intentions to be here is, be open to sharing your experience and your wisdom. It is completely valuable. Be brave. Don't go sitting at a table all the way in the back where nobody's going to join you. Ask the tough questions, and, ask dumb questions too. This is the place to do it. We want you all to be comfortable. Bring your generosity, give your knowledge and receive. Don't be a dominator of the conversation, and make sure you let everybody at the table have a turn. We want to make sure there's no digital food fights, even if you find somebody at your table a little bit disagreeable. It's only for 10 minutes. You can make it through. Make sure you take the time to learn, laugh, and leave it all on the table. And most importantly, be yourself, because you are the only one that we have. So we're going to give you just 10 minutes to take the time to do that. And what I'll do here is I will I'll pause the session and have us take a break. But I'd love you all to come back, because you will have a time to ask more questions to Jeana yourselves. So be sure to add your questions into the questions tab. And as soon as we come back, we'll have a moderated Q&A session. So thank you, everyone. Please stay on the call. We're going to have a brief break. Thank you.